right then, Chelsea have gone a bit mental in this transfer window, and I have some thoughts on it. I feel like when other clubs have done this in the past, like Man City have done it, Man United have done it, it's been it's been very much criticised. I criticise myself. I don't like clubs spending huge amounts of money like this, but I think the way of Chelsea have done it, it's almost as if people are just so shocked that it's happening that they don't know what to say about it. Like, it's just gone completely out of this world they're spending right now. Bringing in Enzo Fernandez on deadline date for 120 million euros. It's unheard of. Think back to 2011, was it, when Fernando Torres moved for 50 million on deadline day? That was insane. And now it's 120 million on deadline day. And what I find the strangest thing is the January transfers they don't set up well with the summer signings. It's just so strange. Like, in the summer they brought in Koulibaly, but then now they're bringing in Badiashile, and then it doesn't make sense. Do you want a young centre back? Do you want a experienced centre back? What do you want? Aubameyang, they probably tried to sell him off. Their summer signings haven't worked, and now they've come in. They've spent all this money. They've spent 600 million euros this season. It's insane, and it's not like previous seasons. Like last season when they brought in Lukaku for 100 million, they sold Abraham and Tomori, so basically paid it off. But what they're doing right now, especially with the contracts and installments, it could be smart, but it also could catch up to them in years to come, where they can't spend as much that year because they've already spent it paying for the installments. It might catch up to them, it might not. You never know, but that's for something in 6 years' time when these deals are nearly at their end. But it is a risk, and it's a massive gamble because these players all want game time. Think of the players they brought in this transfer window: Enzo Fernandez, Mykhailo Mudryk, Benoit Badiashile, Noni Madueke, even like Fofana, and then João Felix on loan. I don't know why, but they just did. You can only register 3 new players for the Champions League. So one of Fernandez, Mudryk, Badiashile, Madueke, and João Felix are not going to be in the Champions League. Which one do you decide? I assume Fernandez is going to have to be in there because it's Enzo Fernandez. Mudryk will have to be in there because, again, you've just bought him for a lot of money, 70, 80 million pounds. Badiashile, he's been starting for them, so he has to be going there, but then you're leaving out João Felix. Do you want to leave out João Felix? Why would you want to do that? It's João Felix. You bought him on loan. Why would you want to annoy him already? Madueke, I assume he's going to be left out, but that, again, a strange signing. He's been decent for PSV. Like, he's had some high moments, but he's been injured a lot. He hasn't really gone up that level. You think you wait a little bit to sign him because his price isn't going to go up massively. And yeah, there'll be competition, but not much. And you don't really need now. And then Malo Gusto as well. Not really needed. You got Reece James. He's probably the best right back in the world on his day. He's not needed there. And then you brought in Mudryk, you brought in Madueke. You literally just brought in Raheem Sterling in the summer. Are you going to get rid of him already? Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But what they have done, they have increased. They've bettered their squad. But is it too much too quickly? What we've seen work, like with Newcastle, they just slowly, gradually brought in the players that they needed. They didn't. They could have gone gung ho straight away. We could have spent 400 million this summer, got all the players in it, and wait for it to mesh. Kind of what Nottingham Forest did, and that hasn't really worked out too well for them. They're doing all right, but it's not worked out too well. But Newcastle went and got in the last January transfer window. They went and got Bruno Guimaraes, Kieran Trippier, Chris Wood, and Matt Targett, and Dan Burn. Just a few players to steady them out for that season. Guimaraes and Trippier, who will be long-term players. and you go, this is kind of what we need for now. We don't need to go gung-ho now. Find out what these players, build around Trippier and Guimaraes, and in the summer we'll find out what we need really, because we'll see what these players can do maybe in a better system. And they have done that, and they didn't need to, and they found out they didn't need to go and spend big money because they had Fabian Schär that they can rely on now. They had Joe Willett, they had Sean Longstaff who played really well, Callum Wilson, Joe Linton. They found players that they had that when playing defensive football under Steve Bruce didn't work, but when they were playing front foot football under Eddie Howe, going high up the pitch, it works. But with Chelsea right now, how do you fit this all together? How do you fit this all together? Yes, you brought in all these young players as well. You brought in Chukwuemeka, Santos, Fofana, Selena, even Madueke. Is he going to get a chance? We don't know. But where will you fit them in right now? Because you just brought a load of new players and you still got a load of players still there. So you brought in these young players for massive prices, but where are they fitting in? Where are they fitting in? And now with the players you got now, are they going to be used? I know, well, you got Havertz up, like, how have they spent 600 million and still have Havertz up front? That's what I don't understand. To fix Chelsea, but they still got Lukaku to fair, so maybe he could come back next season. But to fix Chelsea, you didn't need to spend 600 million euros, and if you did, it could have been way better spent. It doesn't make sense. Enzo Fernandez is a very good player. He went for 10 million euros 6 months ago. 6 months ago. Where's the logic behind spending 120 million euros on him right now? There's no logic to that. He's a good player. He plays very well for Benfica, but is he 120 million euros good? Probably not. Probably not. And then Mykhailo Mudryk, did they only sign him probably because Arsenal wanted him? Probably. Does he look good? Yeah, but you spent 70 million euros on him, yeah. Fofana, again, I assume they're going to go forward with a Fofana Badiashile combination in central defence for the future, which makes the Koulibaly signing completely wasted. Cucurella, again, you spent 65 million euros on him. Why? Any smart director of football will realise 65 million on Cucurella is not that great. He can play one position really, and that's left wing back. As a traditional left back, he's not good defensively. Possibly use him as a left side centre back at times, but again, not traditional there, not great there. It didn't make sense. So this is what you get when you get a new owner wanting to show his worth. And yeah, the immortalisation thing of the contract, of the instalments, being able to pay over a long time, yes, it might work. But it could also hamper them in the future. So in, let's say, 6 years, they have to pay, they want to buy a new player, but then now they're suddenly paying 30, 40, 50 million on instalments to players they just bought this window. And think what they might do in future windows as well. It doesn't make sense. And yes, they needed players. They're 10th in the league. They needed players, but I'm not a Chelsea supporter, so I don't know this, but surely you just didn't need this massive overhaul, really. I'm sure Enzo Fernandez could have waited to the summer. And FFP is broken, clearly. You can't spend the 600 million euros and not being under FFP regulations because you've done the contract thing. It doesn't make sense. It just shows FFP, like City showed with it. It's for the big clubs, it doesn't matter. There's a way to get around it. There's always a way to get around it. But Chelsea now do have a good squad. Now it's about getting it together. So I assume now, by the way, they didn't buy a new keeper, which is a bit insane because they have Kepa and Mendy, who are not great either. So I assume it will be a Kepa, Cucurella, Thiago Silva, Badiashile, Reece James backline for the rest of the season. So you're leaving out Fofana, he's injured right now, but Koulibaly you're leaving out. And you got Chilwell as well, who's out longer term, but when he comes back, who do you decide? Your £50 million left back from 3 years ago, your new £60 million one. You sold Jorginho, so that leaves space for Enzo Fernandez in midfield next to Kovacic, I assume. I assume that's the case. There aren't any new signings. I remember that you got Kante there still. You got Loftus-Cheek when he's fit. But it's not great, really. And then front line, you got Havertz, I assume, will be starting up front with Sterling, Mudryk and Felix behind. Maybe Mount. Like I said, the Felix signing doesn't make sense. You got him on loan for a season. Just develop your squad. Not everything has to be done straight away. Best built squads are worked over time. You don't need to do it straight away. It doesn't make sense. And what I don't think people realise is having this many younger players, inexperienced players in a squad just chucked in together is going to be hard for them to figure out without the experience around them. Like Arsenal, it works because they kind of all came up together. They came through it together. They got implemented, one by one, and it worked. But if they're all chucked together, see what Nottingham Forest, they're struggling. And they brought in a lot of experienced players. But they're struggling to fit it all together. Chelsea bringing in a load of young players, inexperienced players, not used to winning football games by themselves. They're used to teaming around them. It's going to be hard to fit them all together. And then Graham Potter, again, he's not a manager that's used to this. He's a deer in the headlights right now. He has no idea what's just happened to him. He's gone from Brighton to Chelsea, and suddenly he's spending £300 million on players, and he's going, what? He's never had a trouble with this before. Big egos, he hasn't had this before. At Brighton, it's fine because you drop one game, no one hears about it. Yeah, it might be have a little talk between players, but you're at Brighton, it doesn't, it's not the biggest thing. But all these players are going to be wanting to play. All these players have got long-term contracts. These are your set of players now. You can't sell these players on really because the contracts are so long. These players are tied down. These are your players now. You have to develop these sets of players. And yes, you can get new players in, but hoarding players, it doesn't work. It won't work. You need a set squad. And this hoarding the players, it won't work, I don't think. And especially when none of these players are outstanding world class right now. They brought in Enzo Fernandez, yes. He's a very good player. Showed at the World Cup he's very good. Benfica, he's been very good, especially Champions League. Is he world class? No. Fofana, world class potential? No. Murdic? No. Cucurella? No. Sterling? No. Badiashile? No. Koulibaly? No. Madueke, Gusto, Chukwuemeka, Santos, Fofana, Aubameyang, Felix. None of them are world class. They brought in a load of good potential players or good players, but none of them are world class and going to absolutely help them right now. Is Enzo Fernandez best than Kovacic? Probably not. Right now, probably not. Kovacic has got the experience. He's played multiple World Cups, multiple Premier Leagues, won the Champions League, played for Real Madrid. He's probably better than Enzo Fernandez right now. Jorginho is probably better than Enzo Fernandez right now. Is Fofana, Badiashile a better backline than Koulibaly, Thiago Silva? Right now, probably not. So, I don't know whether Chelsea are going in for now, because it seems like they are going in for now, but they're also going in for the future. But when does the future become the now, and are the now players, what's the point in them? You spent this much money on Sterling, on Koulibaly, but you're also buying a lot of young players. But when you want the young players bedded in, you want the really good players around them. And Sterling and Koulibaly aren't that really, really good players. You want the world-class players around a load of young players, and that's fine. But it just doesn't make sense, especially when Sterling and Koulibaly have only just arrived themselves. They need to get used to them teammates before being able to help teammates settle in. It doesn't really make sense to me. So are Chelsea smart or dumb? I don't know. It could be the smartest move ever. Hoarding these young players, they all grow up together and they all win multiple Premier Leagues. But it could also be the case that money troubles in the future because all their instalments down the line, they have to pay them off. They can't spend transfer fees, or all these players don't work, and suddenly you've got 6 players on 8-year contracts and then they haven't worked out and you can't sell them. And suddenly you've got a 30-man squad of all players that want to leave, can't leave, and you can't get any money for them. So, but you could also get all these players become world class, and you've got an amazing squad. We've never seen this before in football. That's why it's just everyone's just so mind blown by it. It's an insane strategy. It's a very risky strategy in terms of money and financial regulations. Todd Boehly is putting a lot into this clearly. So it's going to be very interesting to see, especially what Chelsea are going to do this season. I don't think they'll improve massively this season. They've been quite average this season. Attacking wise, they're not good. Bringing in all these young players aren't going to help right now. They might, add a few goals in, but defensively, structure of the team, they don't know what they're going to be doing properly yet. So again, it might hurt them defensively. It's going to be very interesting to see what Chelsea are for the rest of the season and how they build on this for seasons to come. How massive do they go in a summer window because of this? It will just be very interesting. But yeah, thanks for watching. No more thoughts on Chelsea. It's just a mental situation, isn't it? But yeah, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next one.